Welcome to the Real Estate Red Flags podcast, the things no one tells you before or after you buy. I'm Joshua, ISA certified arborist and ASCA consulting arborist, joined by Ian, who's the owner of IM Home Inspections. Let's get into it. Today we have Hyde Anderson joining us, who is the owner of Cap City Property Inspections. Hyde, we're really happy to have you here and excited to talk shop here.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I come to you from the land of Ohio. I always like to let people know. Nice Midwest place.
Good. Yeah, that was going to be one of my first questions for you. So I'm glad you brought that up. You know, with Ian and I being in California, I guess are you from Ohio, or what brought you out there?
Yeah, I grew up in Northeast Ohio, just off of the lake, a little town called Cuyahoga Falls, just outside of Akron. And great place to grow up, great place to retire. Not a great place to be in your 20s. So when I got out of high school, I started driving south. I got to Columbus, and the weather is amazing, and it's a much better metropolitan area. So yeah, I've been in Columbus for 25 years now.
Nice. You know, I've never been to Ohio, but I have heard really good things about Columbus. It's definitely somewhere I'd love to go someday.
Absolutely. It's got a lot of charm. It's got a lot of character, and people, they enjoy it here. I always like to say, you go to major cities, you go to Los Angeles, you go to, New York, you're gonna find like 15 amazing sushi restaurants, right? Well, in
Uh-huh.
Columbus, we're gonna have two, but they're gonna be amazing.
There
We
you go.
really do have a big ethnic diversity in our city, and it leads to some great food, some great entertainment. It's we call it Ohio's largest small town. It's
Mhm.
big enough; it's 2 million people, but you still know everybody after a while,
Yeah.
you know?
That's nice. Honestly, it could be a good thing, really, having like two to three really good options to choose from for a place like a restaurant, whereas somewhere in like I don't know, San Francisco or New York, maybe you have so many you could choose from that it's like, how do you know which one to pick? So,
Right, right,
um,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, anyways, let's get into the topic here. Home inspections. I guess, how did you get into the home inspection world, and I guess what was the path that led you to that?
Sure, yeah. Let's see here. I was driving a truck for 15 years and hated it. I always wanted to start my own business. I'm the worst employee. I'm the employee that when I show up, the entire time I'm figuring out how I can do your business better. And that's good for a while. And then I'm like, no, I'm just going to go do that business better. Right. So I always wanted to open my own shop, open my own business. And home inspections made a great fit. There's a low barrier to entry. You don't need a lot of money to get into it. And really, your hard work pays off. So if you get into it and suits your character, it suits your personality, and you want to put in the sweat equity to build that career, you can absolutely do it. You don't need to spend, $100,000 on education. You don't need to spend $500,000 on tools or any of that. You can just kind of get going really cheaply, and that's how I got into it.
Yeah. It seems like it's something that if you put your mind to it and you're dedicated to, being a really hard worker to provide a good service, that if you stick with it, people will appreciate you and want to work with you. So, at
Yeah.
least from talking to Ian, that's what it seems like.
Yeah, it's all about service. I mean, it's real estate.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're there because we give amazing service, and that's what keeps us all busy.
Yeah. And I think that's what people are looking for the most in a service that you're providing, is how good is it? And I know Ian has talked to me a lot about you, in our conversations, and I guess it sounds like the two of you maybe built your businesses almost in parallel and kind of started in similar spots and grew together. I
Yeah,
know you
just
each run.
opposite sides of the country,
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But I guess both of you can chime in on this, but talk about that dynamic of what it's been like having someone to bounce ideas off of, while you guys are trying to figure out how to run your business the right way.
Yeah, I think it's always important to have a group of people around you that understand what you're going through and what you're doing. And if they're doing the same thing, that's even better, right? Because you do have a lot of the same struggles, you do have a lot of the same problems that you're going to deal with. But it's just, it's always helpful to have another set of eyes, another set of ears, another brain working on the same problems, right?
Yeah, for me, it was extremely helpful. I don't think I would be here really even in this conversation without Hyde poking me along and just every day messaging me like, "Hey, what about this? What about that?" And I always remember it was a really hot day. It was in the middle of COVID, so like you couldn't go to Starbucks and use their AC because everything was closed. I was in between inspections and it was incredibly hot. So I parked underneath a freeway overpass just to have some shade in between my first job and my second job. And Hyde texts me out of nowhere. He's just like, "What would it happen to your business if you put your inspectors in a classroom rather than just following you around all the time?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." And that completely revamped how I train people because the old version is you hire somebody, they follow you around, and it takes like 6 months for them to understand everything because sometimes it's hard to explain what you're doing, where you're going, and the agent's going, "Are you done yet?" And the seller's dog's barking at you, and you're trying to show somebody how to. It's very inefficient, but that's how the industry was for decades. And
Yeah,
I,
our
yeah,
industry has no sense of itself and really never has because there's no like established grades that you can learn from. It's not like when you get in, if you want to get into the restaurant industry, not only can you go to great schools and stuff like that, but you can also go work for amazing restaurants and see how they've built an amazing business. You don't have the same equivalent in the home inspection industry or a lot of the service industry, really. So we get stuck with these dogmatic ideas that this is the way we have to do things. And honestly, a lot of them are just wrong. Like the worst way to learn how to inspect a house is by inspecting a house. That sounds weird, but I'll tell you why. Uh, you need to get repetition on systems back to back quickly. So the best way to learn how to inspect a furnace is by inspecting a furnace, but it's by inspecting 5 furnaces at once. It's by looking at 8 water heaters in a day and not, oh, yeah, I saw a furnace yesterday. What was it again? That experience was 24 hours old. That's not how you learn. You need that repetition quickly. You need to be doing the same thing a lot, not just walking around with aimlessly with no directed education.
yeah.
That
So,
makes total sense. Yeah. I mean,
so
you are what you repeatedly do, and what you repeatedly do, you're going to learn and do a great job at that over time. So that makes sense. Repetition.
yeah, no, we cut down training from like 6 months down to like 3 months tops. Sometimes a matter of weeks, depending on how good they
Yeah,
are at
and
this information.
there were home inspection companies, smaller companies, that would train people for a year to do the job. And we always kind of like had the same opinion. Like, if the military can train you to fly a helicopter in 3 months, I can train you how to inspect a home in 3 months. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
take years.
That's a really good analogy. Um, well, I have to imagine in Ohio there are some older homes, and I've always been curious, and I don't know if we've talked about this, Ian, but how does it? And either of you can answer this, but how does it change? And it probably doesn't change your process, but I guess what differences do you notice when you're inspecting a really old home that's been there for a while versus, a brand new home, I guess, and in between.
Right. Yeah, we have some great historic homes dating back to the mid 1800s, maybe absolutely stuff built in the 1880s and
Hmm.
stuff that's older than that. And it's a lot of different materials, and living in an older home like that, it's just a different type of house to live in. You're not going to have um, some of the amenities of a modern home, but also you're not going to have just some of the comfortableness of a modern home. Like, I don't live in a 100-year-old home because I like square footage and big closets. Okay, if you want to live in a 100-year-old home, you're not going to have that. They barely even had closets. Most of the closets we run into are where they chopped a room in half and gave a closet to each side, right? Um, our 100-year-old homes, they weren't built on basements. They had no reason for basements back then. They were built on crawl spaces. And then when modern appliances came along, HVAC, water heater, stuff like that, people had to go in and dig out those basements by hand. So they would dig out the basements and shore up the foundation so that they could put a furnace down there, big old gravity furnace, right? So those basements, none of them are waterproof. They're barely even water resistant. But the classic saying is, it's been there for 150 years. Who am I to say that that guy did it wrong when his work stood that long?
Yeah. How about you, Ian? Anything you've noticed
Yeah, I mean, we
being
have a
in?
lot of houses from the 1920s in LA, and then if you go out to Pasadena, downtown LA, you definitely find older homes. I've done an 1895 in South Pasadena, and that was an incredible experience because it was like a history of home inspections. They had like every kind of wiring, from like the first electrical wiring up to modern wiring, all mixed together. They had a little of everything because the house had been obviously added on to over the years as they added electricity, added indoor plumbing. That was definitely not part of the house in 1895, and we've done a few that are even older. But older houses take longer because there's a lot more stuff that could potentially be wrong. They've had a lot more, like I said, upgrades, not necessarily in square footage, but someone came along and added electricity at some point. Someone else came along, rewired the house at some point. At some point, the plumbing was probably redone or not. Uh, so you're going to have a lot more variables. So yeah, it doesn't really change the process, but it definitely changes your mindset. So I very always stress to our front office people, make sure we have the year built
Mhm.
in the order because the inspector really cares about the year built because it's going to set the tone for the inspector walking in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're lucky. A lot of our older homes, they're all built around the same, decades. And we find all the same problems in all of the older homes.
Mm.
So our templated comments are just so dialed in for our market. Like, you walk down into a basement and you're like, oh, look, here's a shaky staircase that has no guardrail, that, has not supported properly on the back end, just like the last 15 I looked at. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess that would be the value in knowing the year it was built also, because then you basically know what to expect. Like, hey, I know this was built then. Like, I'm for sure gonna check on this because I see it every time. So I could see that. How about with negotiations? And I know it's not really your guys' job, but how often do you find that buyers are using the things you find in their negotiation, to try to get, I don't know, a credit or something off of their purchase price? Or
Well,
yeah, does that come up for you guys?
Yeah, thankfully now in our market, we are just starting to tip towards a more balanced market. We're nowhere close to a buyer's market. But for the last 5 years, we've been in an extreme seller's market
Mm.
where anything that is in a decent neighborhood and taken care of goes into contract inside of 3 days, has 20 offers on it, stuff like that. We have a
Wow.
huge housing shortage in Columbus.
Okay.
But it's finally eased up a little bit, higher interest rates, thinning out buyers, stuff like that. And we are starting to see, and we take wind of it because we always get the question in the email a few days later, hey, how much is that going to cost? Or hey, who should I call for that? There's like
Yeah.
a 3 to 5 year process where we wrote our reports, and I don't know if anyone ever read them because you couldn't negotiate with it. It was either a lot of deals were as is, cash, stuff like that. So thankfully, over the last year, 18 months, we kind of feel like we have more of a purpose because we can actually help our clients save a little cash or, always
Right.
be more aware of the home.
Yeah, I know I mean, I'm sure in your area, but in a lot of parts of the country, kind of post-COVID when the housing boom was going on, where it was extreme seller's market everywhere, it was people were waiving inspections, which is crazy to me. And I'm sure you guys didn't love that, but having a more balanced market, I could see being, kind of where you guys want to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. It makes it a lot easier for us.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't get a lot of waiving inspections in California compared to the rest of the country, but we definitely had situations where you would get to the end of the inspection and you'd tell the client this, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, this is the ninth house we made an offer on, and the only offer that got accepted, so we're just gonna buy it anyway, even if they weren't really happy with the response." But it's always gone
Yeah.
in waves. When in springtime, yeah, it gets more competitive, and people are less likely to negotiate on things. People get it in their head that the only point of a home inspection is to negotiate, which is not really true. It's to inform you. And I remember one condo I inspected, and the seller worked in the real estate industry. He wasn't an inspector himself, but he was very familiar with the inspection process. So he knew everything I was going to look for and fixed it ahead of time. And there was very little to report. And the buyer was so disappointed. Like most buyers want the house to be perfect. This particular buyer was very disappointed that the house was perfect because he really wanted something. He had offered more than he really wanted to pay to get the deal, hoping he would be able to negotiate down, and that did not work.
Sounds like that's a bad idea. Wow. Well, I guess I know you guys see varying levels of, things you find that are wrong or need to be fixed. I guess for someone that's never had a home inspection done or never been part of that process, can a home fail an inspection? Or, what if you guys find a house that has like gobs of things wrong with it, what it's just a longer report, or how does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, absolutely, there's no way a home ever quote unquote fails
Yeah,
because this is real estate and we know that every home is going to sell eventually to somebody. It
right.
just is the price right for you. And that's what we tell people. It's not about, how many things are wrong with this home. Is the price right? And can you handle this home? Are you the type of person that can deal with the problems that we're going to point out? Because I will, man, we'll inspect houses that are in much more rundown areas of the city. And there's nothing better than when you're at a house and the BMW pulls up, the lady comes out, hands you a check, and says, we're just flipping it. I have to go. I'm like, I love that because this is not the kind of house that I want to see a first time home buyer in. This isn't the
Yeah.
kind of house that I want to see, single mom in. This is the kind of
Hmm.
house that, like, you're right. You need to go in there and do work, and you're the person to do it. So that's
Hmm.
amazing. And then you look at, other homes where it's like you get worried. You're like, man, because as a home inspector, you know what things cost, you know what kind of a big deal things are. And you see something like a furnace that is like 40 years old, it's barely operating, you can't get it to run. And you're like, man, this is going to be a big deal for this buyer. And the buyer shows up, and you're like, man, I have to talk to you about the furnace. And they go, oh, that piece of crap? Oh, don't worry. My brother does HVAC. We're throwing that out on day one. Good job, man. Good job. Like you just never know what's going to be important to a buyer and what's not.
Yeah.
So it's getting that right house for that right buyer.
Hmm. That's a really good point. Yeah, everyone's different, so I mean, you don't really. It's hard to know going into it what's going to be important to someone versus someone else.
That thing. Some people want a project. Some people want things to fix. Some people want to put their own stamp on it. And
Yeah,
some people want it to be perfect. And some people bring their parents along, and their parents are expecting it to be perfect, and they want a fixer-upper, and that clashes.
yeah. I imagine the people that bring their parents. I'm sure a lot of times the dads are secretly hoping for some things that they can, fix and work on and work with their kids on. So that's got to be a fun dynamic. Well, hey, let me ask you, Hyde, is there anything that you can remember that stands out? And it could be anything from over the years. What is one of the
Sure.
most wild or crazy things you've run into in a inspection? If there is anything that stands out.
Is there anything? Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Are we talking about the castle that we inspected that burnt down? Are we talking about the only one time we had to sign an NDA and we found out why and it
Wow.
was needed?
Well, I don't
Are
think you
we
can talk about that one.
No, I can admit I have signed an NDA to inspect a
Okay,
house before,
there you go.
and pardon my French, we got the hell out of that Scooby Doo ass house as quick as we could. But no, I mean you're out there and it's real estate. This is people's houses. You see all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm fortunate enough to lead a team of 9 home inspectors. And, a home inspector, if he's good, he's doing 250 inspections in a year if he can market himself well. If he's amazing, he's doing 350, 400 inspections a year. We're going to inspect over 2,000 houses every single year and more the year after that and the year after that. So we just get into a lot more houses and we see a lot more crazy stuff.
Yeah,
Secret rooms and things that shouldn't be left out. If you wouldn't put it if you would put it away if your mother was coming over, put it away for the home inspection.
yeah.
Whatever it is, we don't need to see any of it.
Oh man, I
So
can
you
imagine that. Yeah,
Mhm.
They hide it in the attic, and then you go in the attic, and that's where you find it.
I had the weirdest attic. So, attics in 100 very old homes, they're all balloon framed, and a lot of the times people will finish them off and make them into a bedroom or something like that. Sometimes they just get used for storage. This attic I go up into, and it's hot and it's stuffy, and there's a window on the gable, not unusual. But I look over at the window and there's a little chair and there's a telescope pointed out the window. I'm like, this is a very strange place for a telescope. You have to come all the way up into the attic. Your view of the sky is limited, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, what is going on over there? House is vacant, so no one lives there. But obviously, whenever the last occupants left, they didn't clean out the attic. So I'm making my way over. There's no flooring, so you have to kind of move around on the joist. And I'm like, this is so weird. Who would have a telescope up here? And I put my hand down and I feel something that doesn't look like insulation. And I look down and there's a human head right next to me. Now it's a
what?
mannequin head,
Oh my God.
but at that moment I had no idea. I'm concentrated on this thing over here. I feel something. I look down and I'm like, oh, wow.
Woo.
And man, you want to talk about getting the heart going. That's a fun one. So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
also take the mannequin heads with you. Don't leave those around.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
man, that is crazy. I can't even imagine. I'm sure like sometimes the buyers that are there during the inspection, they probably see some weird stuff that's left out that probably shouldn't be left out, and you never know. Maybe it would change their mind on if they want to move forward or not. They see some
Yeah.
weird stuff going on. I don't know.
We just had one fall out of contract. We got the call. They had already done the inspection, and they were going back to look at some repairs that had been made. and they didn't notice that the home was just a block or two away from a funeral home. And
Mm,
while they were there, a funeral procession came by and stopped them from getting out of the driveway. And they backed out of the deal because they didn't want to deal with the funeral home traffic that could go by their house. I'm like,
wow.
that seems, I mean, how much traffic really are we talking about? And I was gobsmacked. I couldn't believe that they backed out of a deal over that.
That's crazy. I mean, Ian and I, we were one of our other episodes, we were talking about actually that one part about being at the inspections, why it's important is a lot of times when they're touring homes with their agent, they're there for what, maybe 15 minutes before they got to run and look at two other
Hmm.
houses. And there's definitely some things they miss. And so when they join you for an inspection, they're for sure, they're seeing more that they didn't know. So I guess, do you see value in the home buyer joining you for the inspection, or what do you
Yeah.
typically tell
It's
people?
it's
Yeah.
absolutely kind of your second visit. You get to actually spend a few hours in the home, hear the home, feel it. We like it when they give us about, 45 minutes to an hour to kind of like get started on things. Although I've had buyers beat me to houses and leave after I left, so we
Mm,
run the whole gamut. But yeah, I think it's very important for buyers to attend their home inspections. You just get a lot more information. You get a lot more context. I can take a video, I can write it up, and we do all of that. But it's getting that, more context with the inspection. That's why it's important to be there. Now, if you've bought and sold a dozen homes over the years, I get it, no problem. But a lot of people, may only buy two or three homes in their lifetime. So
yeah.
I do think it's important for them to be there. And I love it when agents show up because then they realize that the thing your client told you that we said that was a big deal, we didn't say that. Or we definitely didn't say it the way your client said we said it. So
Yeah.
feel free to
Yeah.
come.
I'm sure. Well, I guess since we're here with Ian, what is Hyde, what's one thing that's nice that you can say about Ian that is a compliment in maybe the way he runs his business, or something that you've noticed that you're willing to share?
Yeah, Ian's always been a great listener. He's always been very helpful and available. And he's always just been a good friend, and that's few and far between in this business. Um, we operate very differently in our local market. I meet a new home inspector in my market. I'm like, hey man, let's get lunch. Like, I want to hang out with the other guys in town.
Hmm.
Real estate agents do it all the time. They go out, they party, they get drunk together, they have a good time. Why can't home inspectors do that? Uh,
Yeah,
but we have a bunch of like stuffy guys in our market that are like, oh, I don't need to talk to any other home inspectors. I'm like, maybe you do. So,
we help each
and
other out. Yeah,
yeah, and I think having those friendships inside of the industry, especially this industry, is very important.
definitely. Well, Ian, how about same question for you about Hyde? Anything nice you want to
I,
say about him?
I'm just grateful he messaged me one day, and it turned into then the next day, and then we talked like every day on Facebook Messenger for like probably like 3 years before we ever met in person.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I just incredibly helpful, bouncing ideas off, getting ideas from him, trying this thing out. Hey, I'm gonna try this. All right, you try it and come back. Let's compare results. Did that work? Not work? What can we learn from it? And then some days you just have a bad day and you want someone to vent to who understands. What we've gone through and put some perspective on it. It's good at talking me out of my tree. Sometimes I get all like uptight about something, and it's like, it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. And I think about it like, you're right. So
It,
it's
it's
been
it's hard
good
because
for me.
these are our quote unquote small businesses, right? But we should really call them personal businesses because we're in them every day, and we take everything so incredibly personal. And you have to step back and remember, like, hey, don't take it personal. This is just business. Someone's cranky. Let them be cranky. You got to just, get some perspective.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. I mean, I'm sure it's hard sometimes when you've put so much into it. But yeah, sometimes I think probably best to take a step back and take a deep breath, and everything's gonna be all right. Well, I gotta ask you, Hyde, as so I'm an arborist, I'm a tree guy, and I want to know, is there any situation you can remember where you showed up to an inspection and there's been a tree or a tree situation, whether it's a tree root or a tree branch that has really stood out in your inspection that you can remember, or maybe the buyer was really worried about it? I don't know. Is there any tree related
you
thing
know,
that you can remember?
the one that stands out most to me, we were at an inspection, and the house across the street, this is Ohio, so we have a lot of trees, and
Hmm.
it had just this really big, thick, long, horizontal limb. And it snapped off. It broke while I was there. And
Oh,
it
wow.
like sounded like thunder, like
Mm,
almost like a lightning strike. It was just like this giant crack that I had no idea. I mean, it's a big tree, but it was just the limb just broke off. And I'm an audio guy, so I just remember that sound and thinking, I had no idea that's what it would sound like. If a tree falls in the forest, I know what it sounds like. It's loud.
yeah. Did it fall on the house or was it just in like the
No,
yard or
out in the
something?
front yard.
Wow.
But like we showed up, everything was fine. We're walking around, all of a sudden, boom, this giant limb just breaks off. It was
That's
very
crazy. No,
strange.
no storm going on or anything like that. Just
Not at the time,
wow.
no.
Yeah. That. What are the odds of that? That is pretty crazy. Well, I don't know, Ian. If you have anything you want to cover,
Yeah,
but
oh, I wanted a question because what really gets me on Facebook forums or home inspector forums is someone will describe a situation and then the answers will be kind of highly variable because different people in different parts of the country have different rules, different building codes, different traditions, and people don't always realize that like how it works in one place doesn't work in another place. So I know if we had like a Freaky Friday moment and Hyde woke up here and I woke up there and we had to go to an inspection, there's a lot of California things that like would throw you off, like earthquake straps on water heaters, seismic
Sure.
shutoff valves on gas meters, the importance of bolting the foundation. That you would be kind of like, I don't know how this works because they don't have that in Ohio. So flip it around though. So if I were suddenly an inspector in Ohio, woke up one day and had to go inspect a house, what would I get tripped up on?
Hmm. It's a good question. Because I think from a weather standpoint, uh we're not in the same climate, but we have a lot of the same equipment. So I don't think the equipment would be that much different to you. I'm sure you see heat pumps. I'm sure you see, traditional HVAC stuff, water heaters. Um, Man, I don't know what would be so incredibly different on California homes as opposed to Ohio homes. Honestly, I think things here are just more lax because we don't deal with a lot of natural disasters. We don't do 4-point inspections, never heard of them. We don't have to worry about earthquakes. We get like two little baby ones a year and they make the news for a week. We don't have to worry about, tornadoes. So, like, it's just you would probably, one, just be happy and surprised at how flat everything is in Columbus. Not many hills, so and everything's nice and gridded most of the time. And it's the way I describe Columbus all the time. Columbus is just incredibly convenient. We have everything you need. It's right down the street. And that would probably, it wouldn't be the homes. It would probably just be more like the area. Everything's just so convenient here. And people talk about dealing with traffic. We don't deal with any traffic. I had to drive around Chicago once on Thanksgiving weekend. It took me 8 hours to make a 2.5 hour drive. That's traffic. You guys have traffic. we get a slowdown for like half an hour at 3 o'clock every day. The rest of the time you're, running like a bat out of hell. So yeah, it would probably everyone, Ohio has its own reputation and stuff like that. But if you spent some time here, you'd be like, wow, I understand why you don't leave. There's no reason to leave. Everything's just incredibly convenient. And then of course snow.
Yeah, well, I don't deal with snow. I don't really deal with basements very often. Why?
Oh,
We
basements are great.
we have maybe one basement a year.
Oh wow. Well, then that's where it would be,
Not many
because
basements out here. No.
we everything has a basement. Yeah, and man, I always feel bad for my home inspector friends down in North Carolina, South Carolina, because they have crawl spaces. They have terrible stuff like that to deal with. They ask me how my day's going. I'm like, I've got a finished basement and vaulted ceilings throughout. This is nice. So, yeah, but basements are easy. It's just easier to access everything. You can actually walk around a furnace, stuff like that.
I don't call
Yeah.
space here, so
It's too bad. Enjoy.
Oh man. Well, I don't have anything more. Hyde, is there anything you feel the need to let the listeners know about, or Ian, any more you have that you want to discuss?
No, I appreciate it, guys. It's been fun.
I think it's the usual. How do we get a hold of you, Hyde?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Information.
Depends what you want done. If it's home inspections, you're going to find Cap City Property Inspections in Columbus, Ohio, capcityinspect.com. Hashtag Cap City Inspect. My wife always tells me to say that. During the slower season, we hang expensive, fancy holiday lighting for people. We do that under the title 614 Lights. 614 is our area code, 614lights.com. And we just started Brook Spring Environmental, which does radon mitigation, as well as some other services for people. I know you guys don't know what radon is, but it's a big deal in Ohio, and we're helping people get it out of their houses. So you can check out brookspringradon.com as well.
Awesome. How about you, Ian?
I am Home Inspections, letter I, the letter M, Home Inspections. I am homeinspections.com. Office number is 818-298-3405.
Great. And I'm Josh Johns. You can find me at treecheck.io. Email me, josh at treecheck.io. Instagram is also treecheck.io. And again, thanks, Hyde, for being here. Thanks, Ian. That was really fun. And until next time. Thanks for listening to the Real Estate Red Flags podcast. If you learned something today, share it with someone about to buy a home. They'll thank you later. Looking forward to seeing you guys next time.